Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric and Vlogmas 2022. As you can see, it is December 13th, and I am going to admit I am moving a little bit slowly today. So I am hoping that this video comes through with a bit of energy, but I apologize ahead of time if I am a little bit on the slower side. I went out and helped my husband collect firewood yesterday. We had a dead tree that fell down in a storm, and it was it was threatening our driveway. It was kind of in the way, so we needed to get it finally removed. Well, it had been brought down safely a week or so ago. We hadn't had the time or weather to chop it all up and get it moved into a better location until yesterday. So I am moving slowly, but I am ready to dig into another fiber and get spinning. So let's just reach down in and see what we end up getting. Oh, look at this. So I have a milk chocolate lint, and I believe this has like little Rice Krispie flakes in it, and I'm hoping we are not going to be interrupted by a big kitty. I have a visitor over here just outside of the camera. Country green is our color of the day, and this is a green. This is not an exhaust. This is the actual color. But country green tends to read blue. It is a blue-green. And so it's going to add into the blues, the blue tones that we have in this. And I think it's going to look, here, let me get a picture of that next to the yellow and the green from the last couple days. I think this is going to add a wonderful pop of blue in what we've so far had on this bobbin, mostly some green, some yellow greens. So let's get this going and draft this on. And I'm going to talk about how I went out and helped my husband. And I may even hop in a little bit of footage. I'm trying to decide if I want to make a short reel or a YouTube short video, or if I just want to put some of the footage here. But I do love when I can go out and help my husband. Needless to say, I can't do the kind of work that I did in my youth, and I pay the price. Even something as simple as going out and driving around on the riding lawnmower. And to remind you, I have my little debris bowl in here. Even, using the riding lawnmower, I will suffer in the days following. It aggravates the muscles. It aggravates the body. It makes me a little more fatigued. But the sun was shining. The temperatures were nice and not warm and not cold. Nice, cool temperatures. The kind that you can wear a sweatshirt, a hoodie, and be just fine. I feel like I need a little more take up here. And I don't know how much of the airplane going over noise or the cats or anybody downstairs, or in other rooms ever comes through in these videos. I hope it's not too much. Most of the time when I check it isn't, but I'm always a little concerned. But, so, when I was younger, of course, I was much more active and much more capable of doing things, but in my case, many of the health issues that I face today actually showed signs, were present when I was in my youth. But I didn't know about them, and I didn't know that I was different from other people. This was both a good thing and not so good thing, because it did affect my mental health at times. And I think while it may not have affected my mental health as obviously in my youth, it did, as I got older, really have an impact on me, because I always felt like I was giving 100%. I felt like I was working as hard as everyone else, but the effort didn't seem to go as far, or I would be so fatigued afterwards, or there would be, more pain. I remember when I was in my early 20s, when I was in college and right after college, I took up running, and I did a couple marathons before a spine injury kind of nixed that one in the bud. But my mom had done marathons when she was in her 30s, and so I would talk to her about them, and she says, "Oh yeah, when you run like that, when you run and train like that, you're always going to have pain. You're always going to feel pain." Well, what I realized later on in life is that we weren't talking about the same kind of thing. But because I didn't know any better, it was really interesting. I would, my bowl is tipped over. There we go. Reposition it. I would go out and I'd run, and then I would have to come in and I'd have to take a nap. And the strange thing is if I could go in and take a nap after I'd go for a run, the pain would ease up. And so I actually, rather than thinking there was something wrong with me, thought that I actually had a benefit, that there was something really cool about the way my body behaved. Because most people, when they exercise and find themselves stiff from the pain of exercise, most of the time they can't just take a nap and feel better. So there was a period of time in which I really thought, okay, my body is actually super human rather than there's something wrong with it. It wasn't until after I had my two children. This is a mess here. It wasn't until after I had my two children and then a spine injury that it finally kind of all just became too much. And and again, while I started to really suspect something else was going on, nobody else did. One of the things when you have a spine injury and you see a bunch of physical therapists and you see a bunch of specialists over a period of time, is that you get a lot of different evaluations on your overall well-being. And it was strange because certain things would happen. My body would react in ways that I could tell from the expression on the doctors or the technicians' faces that it wasn't normal. But of course, not anything that was going to flag them to look further. It wasn't their special area. So when time passed, different stressors in my life developed. It became impossible to ignore that my body wasn't doing what everybody else's was doing. And it wasn't because it was doing things better. And finally, things became bad enough for a while that it led to some diagnosis. And that began, believe it or not, the journey to getting better. Not a young best self. But it's interesting. As I've aged, I've come to understand that while physically my youth may have been my best years, the best years overall are coming each and every day as I go forward. not as I look in the past. Because I think I'm sure there are things I still haven't figured out about my physical health. I am not spending a lot of time trying to seek and figure out all the little nuances. I've come to accept that they will make themselves known, at least to the medical community, when the time is right. But what I have figured out is that with each passing day, I have learned to embrace these changes in health, changes in what I can do and what I can't do. I've learned to embrace them. I've learned to laugh about them. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she was having a bit of a rough time because some of these traits seem to be very genetic, and I have passed them on to my children in varying extents, and that's tough. I will tell you, that's probably one of the toughest things I've had to learn how to accept, is that I have passed on things before I knew that there were things I would be passing on. So, okay. I talked to my daughter, and she was having a rough time, and I said, well, you might just have to become like your mom. And every day say to yourself, I wonder what my body's going to do today to mess me up, to trip me up, to try to make the day a little bit more interesting than I would like it to be. And so today, having gone outside yesterday and taken in the sun and embraced the opportunity to do things that I would have done in my youth, today my body is letting me know that there is a price to pay for that brief moment in the sun. And it's okay. I am learning how to have new things to occupy my time when I don't feel as well. And that is actually why I've brought up the topic, because yesterday I received an early Christmas present from my son. In addition to him coming home for and seeing me, he purchased me a heat press. And the value of this heat press is has a couple points to it. One, I now have the ability to very easily press a quilt block nice and firm and flat before assembling a quilt without putting strain on my shoulder and back, which is what's been happening in the past. My right side my dominant hand, my right side gets aggravated. It doesn't like having a lot of repetitious activity. I have to be careful when I'm knitting. I have to be doubly careful when I am sewing quilt blocks together. When I'm doing the actual piecing of the small pieces, I use a very tiny little craft iron, and that has very little weight. It's a little tiny travel iron, actually, and I use that. But then when it comes time to press the big block so that I can assemble those, I have to use a bigger iron. And when you have to do that block after block after block for multiple blocks to do a large quilt, or even a small quilt for that matter, it puts a lot of strain on my right arm and my back, and it's actually just as frustrating and damaging to me as going out and trying to help stack wood that's been chopped up by my husband. So by buying me a heat press, my son has been able to eliminate one of the things that can cause me discomfort when I'm doing the things that I love. The other thing that it allows me to do is to take advantage of this new to me craft of using heat transfer vinyl, or specifically printable heat transfer vinyl, being able to use it to print fun designs, fun artwork, and then attach them to things like fabric, t-shirts, or like in the end of yesterday's video, press it onto pieces of wood sourced from the backyard so that I can make ornaments. Now, when I made the one for yesterday's video, the heat press hadn't come yet, so I used a regular iron. But after the heat press came, I had to try another one. And that's my tester. That's my tester piece. And just to show you, there's the back. And you can actually purchase these, believe it or not, you can purchase this type of wood, cut like this with the raw edge and everything, on places like Amazon. Go figure. But in my case, I just said, ooh, here's a nice looking log. This is the size I want. Husband of mine, oh dear, can you slice me off a piece? So, being able to use the heat press for something like that is a game changer, because I've always loved wonderful. I love this kind of ornament. I love this kind of art. I loved back in the 90s. So many people got into painting wood. It was something like called toll painting or whatever, but it was so cute. I was so jealous because my painting is about as good as my handwriting and my hand embroidery. And all three of those things do not fall in the category of good. They really do not fall in the category of good. I am sure there are kindergartners out there. There are little tiny 6-year-olds who do better than I in all three categories. And no, I am not exaggerating. But as I have come to understand it as I've aged, if it causes you pain to do something, you're not going to sit and practice and do it very well. And so when my mother used to tell me, oh dear, you need to practice your handwriting, no, I didn't, because I was going to grow up and be part of the computer generation and use the computer for everything. I figured out how to do scrapbooking pages when everyone was doing the beautiful journaling handwriting. Nope, The cardstock went into the printer, was printed on, and then I put the pictures around the printing. I have learned so many new skills over the years in order to just simply avoid ever handwriting anything. When I no longer had to have handwriting, in fact, when it went to the point where the professors were asking for all the papers to be done by the computer, I just was overjoyed. My handwriting is bad, and it's gotten worse as I've gotten older because, yeah, if something causes us pain, we tend to avoid it. Well, when you can replace it with something else, then why not? So I remember the argument years ago that, but when it's printed with the computer, it's not as personalized. Hey, if a person gets a card from me and it has my signature on it, which it usually does because my husband doesn't sign the Christmas cards, you're getting something priceless, because for me to pick up a pen and sign my name to something, it has to be important. So I have looked at ways, I've tried to find ways to be able to have all of the beauty and joy and fun that I envied when I saw what other people were able to do. I have looked for ways to have something similar. It's not the same, oh my goodness, because even when I'm purchasing clip art to use, I know their art's beautiful. When I sit down and I digitize, which I have to be careful about, again, the repetitious use of a mouse, but when I sit down and I digitize and I create something, I know it's a piece of me that I'm creating. And when you can learn to do something, there is a lot of neps in this ball. When you can learn how to do some of these things, when you can find these, things that you can do, and you can do them well, oh, there's a joy. And when you are accomplishing this, on top of the physical limitations, there is even a double joy, because a lot of people say, oh, well, you can overcome anything you want. No. We learn to master how to do things around our physical, I wouldn't say limitations. I would say our physical challenges. We're only limited in that you're going to like this. We are only limited in that we conform or try to conform to what everyone else is doing. We are unlimited when we stop conforming and instead become innovators. Figure out how we can do it our own way. It will be different, but it can be equally best. And that is what I have been teaching myself these years. I remember, it was the last Christmas I was home before I got married. I was with my grandma. We went to an activity at church, and we were making Christmas wreaths, and everyone was making these beautiful Christmas wreaths with big bows and ribbon. And for the life of me, I could not make the bows the way they did it. So, instead, I made something for me. And that's when I started realizing, when you can't do things the way other people do them, then do them your own way and celebrate it. Because that is what art is about. So, I have some what is it? Country green next to my avocado. So yes, we can print off from the computer something that 1,000 other people can be printing, but it's how we use it that makes it special. It's what we put it on. It's how we combine it with other things. That's the personalized. Not trying to make it look like everyone else's, even though we may recognize the design as being the same design. It's how we use it. It's how we put it together. It's the collections we make. It's how we take this and put it with 3 or 4 others to have a collection. That is what makes it our unique thing. It's the fibers we pick. It's the colors we choose. It's the number of plies, the pattern we pick, and how we combine all of these things together. That's what makes it art. And that's what makes it so that it's not that we're overcoming limitations. No, we've broken free from the constraints. And we're doing the things because they give us joy, and that in itself creates a beauty that I think we see in Christmas every year. Now, we are way over time, so let's pick out one. And if it says that I'm going to take a hot bath, I will just be so happy. It says read a book. Pretty much just as good. So, I'm going to go and put all this stuff away, get it edited, get it uploaded, and I'll see you tomorrow.